African holiday. Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa. It's an African holiday. It's an African holiday. Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa. It's an African holiday.
Imani.
Kuumba.
Imani.
Kuumba.
Kuumba.
Oh, I thought they were
6 days.
I don't know.
6 days. All right, I'm gonna do it again. Kabari got it.
Kuumba.
Kabari got it.
Kuumba.
Kabari got it.
Kuumba.
All right, let's read Kuumba together. Hold on. Get Caitlin.
Oh, it's you can start. It's okay.
You gotta read it together.
Yeah, I was gonna try to remember.
All right, ready?
Mhm.
To do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it.
Amen.
Now it's important, everyone, that this is our 6th night of Kwanzaa. We want to welcome everyone who is watching on the internet. Thank you so much. There's nothing like Kwanzaa. We're coming to the end because New Year's Eve is the 6th day. And tomorrow on New Year's Day will be the final day of Kwanzaa. It will be the 7th day for the 7 principles. And so we want to thank you for watching. And we hope that you are celebrating Kwanzaa and with your family. And if you're not, then you can celebrate with us by watching the live stream. Thank you so much. And Mom, at this time for the spiritual reading.
Read from the 27th Psalm.
All right now.
The Lord is my
My
light and my
salvation.
Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even my enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though all an host shall encamp against me, my heart shall not fear.
Yes.
Though war shall rise against me, in this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after,
Yes.
that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord,
Oh, yes.
and to inquire in his temple. For in a time of trouble,
Yes.
he shall hide me in his pavilion.
Yes.
In the secret of his tabernacle
My.
shall he hide me.
My.
He shall set me upon a rock. Wow. And now shall my head be lifted up above my enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifice
Yes.
of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praise unto the Lord. May the Lord have a blessing, add a blessing to the reading and the hearing of his
Amen.
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 27 Psalms.
Amen. Amen. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Shall I reach it out? All right now.
Yes.
So why don't we at this point, let's do the libations. And we're going to have the youngest person in the house. The youngest person in the house. One Caitlin Cobb. That is the tradition, everybody, is that on Kwanzaa, during Kwanzaa, the youngest person in the house lights the candles. Usually it's children. That's why we say Kwanzaa is designed for children. But Caitlin is doing her child invitation as the youngest person in the house today.
It's okay. I apparently have a superpower. I look 16. So.
Well, she's always saying that because we've gone to the airports and invariably, I would say half the time she gets stopped and asked if she needs to be escorted. Right. Okay. So we're going to today, we're going to light the sixth candle, which is the last of the red candles to be lit. And then we're going, and as we light that candle, we're going to say, for each candle we light, we're going to say the name of the day. Because we've done this now for 6 days. Hey! All right, that's beautiful. So we start with Ooh, Umoja, unity. All right, I'll get out the way. Next to red. Kuti Chakalia, self-determination. Green. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Ujama, cooperative economics. Nia, purpose. And then for tonight, Kuumba, creativity. There we go. There we go. The whole tomorrow's almost lit. Bye. Kwanzaa is an African holiday. Kwanzaa, African. All right. The reading goes as follows. To do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than when we inherited it. The sixth principle is Kuumba, creativity, and logically follows from and is required by the principle Ania, purpose. It is a commitment to being creative within the context of the national community vocation of restoring our people to their traditional greatness and thus leaving our community more beneficial and beautiful than we, i.e., each generation, inherited it. The principle has both a social and spiritual dimension and is deeply rooted both in social and sacred teachings of African societies. Nowhere is this principle more clearly expressed than in the literature and culture of ancient Egypt. Creativity here is both an original act or imitation of the creator, and a restorative act also reflective of the creator constantly pushing back the currents of chaos and decay and revitalizing and restoring the natural, spiritual, and cosmic energy of the world. In ancient Egypt, there was a spiritual and ethical commitment and obligation to constantly renew and restore the great works, the legacy of the ancestors, and the creative energy of the leader in the nation. This was considered doing mayat, i.e., affirming and restoring truth, justice, and righteousness, harmony, balance, order, rightness, etc. Each pharaoh saw his or regime then as one of restoration of mayat, reaffirmation, reestablishment, and renewal of the good, the beautiful, and the right. And then they quote one of the famous queens, Hatshepsut, who said of her ring, quote, I have restored that which was in ruins. I have raised up that which was destroyed. When the Amu were in the midst of Kemet, overthrowing that which had been made as they ruled in ignorance of Ra. And Ra was the name for God. And King Shabaka found a great work of the ancestors in ruins. The Memphite text on creation, and he restored it so that it was more beautiful than before. So it just shows that this concept of restoration, progressive perfection, as they call it, that it was so important to the creativity of Kwanzaa. In fact, this part of the book talks about how Kwanzaa was part of creativity. You had to create Kwanzaa, and you had to be creative in creating Kwanzaa. Because remember, if you had gone back into 1940 and said Kwanzaa, nobody would know what you were talking about because it didn't exist. If you'd gone back into the 1950s and said Kwanzaa, people wouldn't know what you were talking about because it didn't exist. It didn't exist until the late 1960s. And so it talks about how just Kwanzaa itself is part of creativity. And it also talks about how Kwanzaa was meant to restore our knowledge of ourselves. That it in itself is a restoration practice, whenever we do Kwanzaa. And he talks about when he created Kwanzaa, that he was very much inspired by the restorative conception of creativity. For when I say I created Kwanzaa, the term created does not imply or mean made out of nothing, for it's clearly not the case, as the above discussion on the continental African origins of Kwanzaa shows. What one has then is rather a creative restoration and the African spirit of cultural restoration and renewal in both the ancient Egyptian and African American sense of the practices used in the 1960s. And then he goes on to talk about how Africa itself is going through a restoration period. Then he wants to stress, then the stress then is on leaving a legacy which builds on and enriches the legacy before you. It again stress on generational responsibility, just like our generation does Kwanzaa. I'm praying that one day your children, the Anthony, Caitlin, they will do Kwanzaa. And that they will continue our traditions, and that they will live in a world that's much more accepting of the beauty and truth about Black people, and that they won't be so deceived as previous generations were. Now, I talked about something during the show today that's very important. 60% of all Black people have the same last name. And that what is it? That of the 80 most common surnames, what was it? The majority are people of color. Blacks and Latinos and Asians who have the most common surnames, and which means last names. And what I was talking about is that you notice a whole lot of Black people are named Johnson, Jackson, Jones, and there's a reason for that. And Johns, and other names, because what happened was during slavery, Black people created a fictional character called John the Conqueror. And they called him Conqueror instead of Conqueror because they didn't want the white people to get upset, thinking that they were talking about being conquerors. So they called him the Conqueror, and that tickled white people that it was such a funny sounding name. But the concept of John the Conqueror was really quite radical, because John and Jack in the stories, and Jones in the story, was always outwitting white people. And he would use their prejudice against them. And he would trick them into giving him free days off. He would trick them into doing his work. He would trick them into giving him money. He would trick them into giving his family freedom and himself freedom. He would trick them into doing whatever he wanted with his wits. He used his intelligence he would turn their racism against them. And Black people love to tell stories about John, Jack, Jones, the Conqueror, because it was encouraging. It was a way of rebelling. It's a way of reminding ourselves that we didn't belong to be slaves. And it was also a way of saying white people think they're superior, but they're not. Right. They can be fooled, they can be tricked, they can be outwitted. So, right. So it's a way of putting us on the same level, if not a higher level, to white people that were trying to oppress us. So it is, so when emancipation happened, when Blacks called themselves John's son, they were calling themselves the son of John. When they called themselves Jack's son, they were calling themselves the son of Jack. And Johnson, that's why, and Jones and Johns, and all these names come out of that tradition of Black folks basically saying we are going to carry our heritage forward. A spirit of resistance, a spirit of striving, a spirit of not allowing people to define us. Right, self-determination, all of the Kwanzaa principles. So we were teaching that today. We taught that during my radio show because they were talking about how states now use the fact that Blacks have names in common to actually oppress us when we try to vote. And there's a program called Interstate Crosscheck. And if your name is Curtis Harris and you live in Florida, and there's a Kurt E. Harris in Illinois, or Curtis W. Harris in California, they claim they're all the same people, and they take all three off the voter registration rolls. Yeah, it's wrong, it's stupid, it makes zero sense, because they can look at social security numbers, right? They can look at birth dates, right? I mean, there's a whole lot of things they can look at instead of just taking, but they do that purposefully to eliminate Black people from the rolls. So 344 Black people, I forget the name he used, who were called something Johnson, were all taken off the rolls. Because they all, even though 344. Now they knew that only one to be, I mean, come on now. And that wasn't even proof that was even real. So we were talking about that today, and about how that's one of the voter suppression issues that we're fighting, is getting rid of what's called interstate cross-check. And we've had some real luck in that. We've gotten 18 states to stop doing it. Only 33 were doing it out of the 50, and now we have 15 who still use it. But guess who uses it? I was so shocked today. No, you'll never believe who still uses the interstate cross-check system. Maryland! Maryland! Where we live. So you know TJC got a letter going out. Oh, yeah. Oh, they're in trouble. Oh, yeah, that gotta go. I had no idea. I knew that Virginia used it, and I've been protesting Virginia's. So anyway, so that's just a lesson, again, about how our ancestors had so much cunning, so much smarts, so much self-determination, so much knowledge of self, so much creativity, Kuumba. Because imagine being so creative that you let me have it. Hi, Ernie. I'm good.
Where?
No, sir. You sent me an email tonight? Well, what it's doing is it's telling you no results found. And that's an error page. I am so angry. I asked my webmaster to fix this Saturday, but your payment has gone through. If you got to the page that said no results found, your payment's fine. We got it. Okay, let me see. Oh, let me see what's wrong. We haven't had that one. Okay, I just got one. And it came from, that's producing. Okay, oh, I see your email.
On you, Marvin.
Let me check. I'm so sorry. I don't know why it would tell you that it's kicking the donation back. Because we haven't had that problem. We've had at least 10 donations. That sounds good.
You on TikTok? You on TikTok?
Am I?
Are you?
You been on TikTok?
No, I mean,
I have no idea why that's happening. You're the first person who has told me that happened.
it's a thing that they say.
Yeah, everybody's been getting that page thing. Nobody's told me about page.
Couple check.
You're the first person.
So you said ice check.
Yes, and not just I appreciate your trying to make a donation to us. Just put it in the mail. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. This is so frustrating. Thank you. I hope it's not happening to anybody else. This is the first time we've heard of it. All righty. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. And Happy New Year to you. And I listen. And I gotta get up with Dee Dee to have our conversation. And tell her I'm coming. Okay. Thank you, Ernie. You're the best. Bye-bye.
Oh, and Barbara, we do have a comment on the live stream. Our good friend Vinny Cola says Bernie Sanders is discussing that issue right now along with the corrupt gerrymandering by GOP state lawmakers nationwide. Unacceptable tactic.
Absolutely.
So no voter suppression tactic is acceptable.
Right, none. Thank you, Betty. We totally agree. So everybody, as we're gonna do the libations real quick, because we gotta get the ancestors in here, and then we're going to quickly talk about what we're gonna do next year. And everybody think about it for Kuumba. How are you gonna manifest your Kuumba? So everybody get your glasses, let's go. I apologize. To Bigo, libation statement. Our fathers and mothers came here, lived, loved, struggled, and built here. At this place, their love and labor rose like the sun and gave strength and meaning to the day. For them then, who gave so much, we give in return. On this same soil, we will sow our seeds and build and move in unity and strength. Here too, we will continue their struggle for liberation and a higher level of human life. May our eyes be up! May our strength be up! And may the boldness of our life be like us! And may we remember and honor our ancestors and the legacy they left for as long as the sun shines and the waters flow. White people everywhere then! For Shaka Samori and Nzinga and all the others known and unknown who defended our ancestral land, history, and humanity creating invaders. For Garvey, Mohammed, Malcolm, and King, Harry, Fannie Lou, Sojourner, Bethune, and Nat Turner, and all the others who dared to define, defend, and develop our interests as a people. For our children and the fuller, freer lives they will live because we struggle. For Hawaii and Nguzi Saba, the new system of views and values which gives identity, purpose, and direction to our lives. For the new world we struggle to build, and for the continuing struggle through which we will inevitably rescue and reconstruct our history and humanity in our own image and according to our own needs. Harambe! 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 All right, ancestors who were created, who used the arts, song, dance, music. Maya Angelou, Harambe.
Sammy David Jr.
Harambe.
Muhammad Ali.
Harambe. Geraldine Edwards. Harambe.
Nat King Cole.
Harambe.
Michael.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Harambe.
Okay, you can go. Marvin Gaye.
Harambe.
Okay, Prince.
Harambe. Toni Morrison.
Harambe.
Alvin Ailey.
Harambe. Booker T.
Harambe.
The one that created.
E. Curtis Heights. Harambe.
Who created the
Curtis Ford.
Curtis Ford. John Coltrane.
Harambe.
Miles
Harambe.
Davis.
Harambe.
Dizzy Gillespie.
Harambe. Harambe.
All right, that was good.
That was good.
That was good. That was very good, everybody. So, in our remaining few minutes, because we don't have many, in our remaining few minutes for our short one, in our 9 minutes we got left.
Why don't you go first, Barbara?
Well, my Kuumba, you see a lot of my Kuumba already.
Yeah.
Is working with Mr. Story on and restoring the house to its former greatness. Look at my eyeball lights. Look how bright this room is.
I'm not gonna fly on the stream.
And decorating the Happy Kwanzaa sign.
Oh, somebody, Vinny Cola commented Duke Ellington.
Duke Ellington, Harambe! Harambe! That's terrible. I can't believe we're getting issues. All right.
Okay.
We gotta get rid of him.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
All right. Thank you, Betty. Thank you. I just poured for definitely for Duke Ellington. In fact, there's a Duke Ellington school here in D.C. It's not too far from where our office is. That's a Duke Ellington School of the Arts. Because he was such a heavy influence. You know, Ella Fitzgerald, there's so many people we could have called out and who have really defined so many people. So why don't we talk about creativity? I wish I could do more for the community to make our community prettier, to keep it up. That's why I get upset when our yard's not right. Yeah. When we're not looking right as a house, because we bring the community down. Right. And that's why I want us always to have everything right. That's why if I see something horrible, like a lot of trash somewhere, or a box in the middle of the street, or something that's crazy, I will pull my car over and move the stuff out the way, because I know it's not safe, and it looks terrible. So I will try to do that, and I believe that part of my wanting and working so hard on people voting is the same thing.
Definitely.
It's the same thing. Because I want people to vote so that they can vote so that their communities look better. Yeah. So they can vote to make sure that they got city councilors who are going to make sure the trash is picked up, who are going to make sure that there's great schools, are going to try to make sure there's nice parks in the area. We're going to try to make sure that people are able to eat and live well, and not have to be homeless and living on the grates. Those things are part of it. But also, you notice that I try to use every opportunity on my radio show to educate people about our history. Yeah. Like I just did about John the Conqueror. So people learn about our history. And also to get others who can share. Like I've had speakers on who have talked about our history. Oh, yeah. And like the lady who came on and talked about the Black Queen of England. Most people didn't know about her, about Queen Charlotte. And so, there's been a lot of education. And that's to restore us, to restore our awareness, our knowledge about who we are. So I'm going to keep doing that in 2020. And I pray to God that one day I would love to be part of, I love teaching, and it's been good that I've been able to teach the law. And one day I hope to be able to be part of some continuing education in communities for people who are already adults to keep learning, keep growing. Okay. Caitlin?
For my Kuumba, I think one, it's the Black History Month series, because I started doing that, the Black History Live series, as well as, you know what I mean, just the articles and written and doing that. Another thing that makes our community better is now I got an acoustic guitar, so I can play some music.
Yes, I love
you know,
it.
actual music to my songs as well to help
Yes.
empower people. And then, yeah, so I think I had something else. I just forget what it was now, but that's okay.
No, but you're very creative.
Yeah.
And you bring a lot of creativity to us, to all of us. We learn so much from you because of your creativity. And we're grateful to you for your singing, your show you do every week. Every week. And we be sitting up here enjoying it and having the fruits of that. The Anthony.
Yeah.
Creativity.
Yeah. I'm gonna just keep on, you know, trying to do the music, but I'm trying to do it in different kind of ways. You know, trying to create it where it can be a more of a well, I'm not gonna, it's not just music, but I'm just gonna put music, because that's what I do the most. So I'm gonna just say I can do the music in a way where it can reach out to the community, and maybe I can get some feedback, and yeah, you know, to make it, you know, you do the music, get the feedback. I can explain like this: do the music and get the feedback, and then after you get the feedback, you know, it makes you can create better ideas with feedback from more people.
I remember what it was.
Yes, what was it?
Oh, yeah.
So
Hey, Kim. Fine, we're in the middle of Kwanzaa. Can I call you back in a few minutes? I'll call you back in 10 minutes. Okay, bye-bye. Go ahead.
In my head, I've been envisioning, and I started this when we were in Selma, Alabama, a TV show or maybe a YouTube show or something that would really showcase our Black history.
Yes.
Because we were all sitting around the table in a restaurant talking just like we are now about you know, historical Black people, our lives, and I was just envisioning a thought bubble going up, and then either animated or live action retelling of those stories. So I think that'd be a cool project to somehow work on and bring about, and you know, just take videos such as this from Kwanzaa, and then you just put up a thought bubble and then actually play out the story so that more people pay attention and really get what we're saying about, like, you know, Jonathan the Conqueror and stuff.
Like acting out.
Yeah, like acting out the stories. You know, those little animated things. So I think that'd be a cool, creative way to share our history. And
well, and you forgot your biggest accomplishment on creativity.
What's that?
The calendar.
Oh, yeah. Well, I said beyond Black History Month. Yeah.
The Black History Month calendar. Yeah. She produces a whole calendar for each day of Black History Month, from the 1st through the 28th. If a leap year, I guess we'll do 29, in which she describes a Black hero or ancestor who worked on voting rights. And it's a lot of education. A whole lot of people have never heard of these people. Caitlin tells the stories of. And so it's an amazing calendar. And somebody told us it ought to win an award. So it's one of the best things they've ever seen.
I'm sorry, Dan.
And that they wish that we could popularize it more. So we're working on it this year.
Yeah.
Yes, we're working on trying to make it much more popular, disseminated for profit. Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to say, Dancer?
No, I'm good.
Marvin?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass off.
Well, you're sitting there. You're sitting there. You sit
I
there.
like to shout it out.
You're creative with your comedy too.
Song.
Oh, good. Oh, that'd be awesome, Marvin.
The lead of people that are doing that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
There are those who before that.
Yes.
But all I gotta do is just reach out to the opportunity right now that I have strength in my body and do something.
Amen.
But there's a lot of thoughts in my mind that can come out, that need to come out. So
Amen.
I think this year I just spent the whole year just trying to pull that out of me.
Well, Marvin,
You know,
I think that's
represent.
awesome.
Yeah.
And and you're in Kuumba, it's in you, and you talked about, possibly doing some stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
That could be the field I want to go.
That's
I thought
creativity.
about that last night.
That's creativity, Marvin.
Yeah.
I got the studio downstairs. I already told you. I got to get your jokes together.
All right
I'm in
now.
the studio, and I can put you on.
All right now.
I can
Let's
show you-
work it together, son.
Bring you to the world. Show the world to you.
Doors are open and all
And
that.
Marvin, you cook a lot around here.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
You can turn Kuumba on in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We've been eating some Kuumba. Thank you, Baba.
Oh, well, what I'm going to do is keep trying to lead the younger people the right way, teach more about their history. And because, you know, where I come from, people used to be ashamed to be black.
Right.
And they used to be, and
Oh, it's true.
I used to couldn't walk.
People used to call me black to make fun of me.
And I couldn't walk with the other children from school because they would call me black.
Right.
And I think I was that black. But the little brown skinned girls and all that, I get in my hurt and want to get down behind you to push you over.
Yep.
So you dress to go up.
Yep.
That's what we do, dress to go up. So it made me a bad person out of it too.
Uh-oh.
Because
She'll fight.
oh,
Slap him good.
She'll fight.
Good.
oh, yeah.
Slap him. All of them. I'm happy. That's what I want to hear.
It's called a
Well,
switch.
that
blade. It's called a switch. blade.
Yeah. Put on a switch flip. Yeah.
Y'all live.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, guys.
All right, Mama. All right, Kuumba.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, we don't wanna admit to any crimes
I
on
love that
I
story.
think we have gone in a different direction on Kuumba. I think we went from positive unity and creating Kuumba to hurting folks. So I think we better move on. We better move on.
One day I do this.
All right. Okay, everybody. But I don't want to hear.
Well, she can tell us after the stream.
Yeah, let us talk about it after the stream.
They might be scared of
Right. So let's okay. Okay, everybody get your cups. Get ready.
Get ready.
Because we're about to do the Tashiba Tutanana, which is the farewell statement. And I want to thank everybody for today's Kwanzaa. I hope you didn't hear none of that. Anyway, we got switchblades going on. Okay. All right, everybody. Strive for discipline, dedication, and achievement in all you do. Dare struggle and sacrifice and gain the strength that comes from this. Build where you are and dare leave a legacy that will last as long as the sun and the waters flow. Practice daily. Umoja. Kujichagulia. Ujana. Ujama. Nia. Kuumba. And Imani. And may the wisdom of the ancestors always walk with us. May the years end meet us laughing and stronger. May our children honor us by following our example in love and struggle. And at the end of next year, when we sit again together in larger numbers with greater achievement and closer to liberation on a higher level of human life. Hooray! Hooray! Kwanzaa is an African holiday. Kwanzaa is an African holiday. 7 principles for 7 days. It's a every holiday. I'm gonna put the candles out.
I just wanted to get you putting the candles out.
Huh?
So I just wanted to get you putting the candles out.
That was great. And the Anthony,
Do
in
you
the
have any last
morning,
words to the people?
thanks everybody for joining us for the 6th day of Kwanzaa. You have seen now us go from unity to creativity. And as you notice, every principle is built on the principle before it, reminding us that values, which is what Kwanzaa is a value-ridden holiday, are interdependent. That when we talk about somebody having integrity, that means they're trustworthy, right? That means we think they're truthful, right? That means we think they're people of their word, right? So values are interdependent. They don't stand independently of each other. And that's why it's so important to celebrate the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And I am on my way to church now to welcome in the new year and to thank God for all the blessings he's given to this household, given to me, given to our people, given to everybody on this earth, to humanity in 2019, and to pray in 2020, a new year. Thank you, God, and thanks to everybody for watching. We will tune in tomorrow night. We're going to start Kwanzaa probably just a little bit earlier, and we hope that you'll join us. We look forward to having you as part of our extended Kwanzaa family. Thank you.
And Happy New Year's. And also, Vinny says Happy New Year's to all Caitlin, Barbara, Mama, Justin, Marvin.
Happy New Year's, Betty!
And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
All right, let's go. Okay, Marvin, is the car in the garage?